Hi, this is David again, and I came across some information in my own mind this morning that I thought might be useful to me in my therapy. And if you're interested, fine. If you're not, throw it in the trash. Don't click on these videos. After being in the Mormon Church and traumatized in the Mormon Church for 50 years, I resigned, and I have tried to deprogram from a cult. Now, in my education, I have a master's degree, some extra credits above that. I had some experience deprogramming cult members, satanic ritual cult members, and sacrifice and programming for satanic ritual abuse, sacrifice, etc. So I have a little experience in that, and I have been given a lot of thought. I've done a couple of videos that have picked up, some support and people looking at them about Mormons. How do you get a Mormon to see facts? You can put a green light bulb right in front of their face and say, that's a green light bulb, and they go, no, that's a trick. Satan is making you say that. That is not a green light bulb. That is a white light bulb. Well, you've all had that experience, perhaps being a Mormon, you've had that experience, and then those of you who have family and friends, and those of you that watch these videos just out of curiosity, here's what I've discovered. If you are going to go into a battle, now I'm using analogies here, I don't mean battling the Mormons with guns and swords, I don't mean that, and some of you are so, IQ in the one digit. Sometimes I'll get some Mormon that'll write to me and say, you're talking about having a war against the Mormons. No, I'm not. If you can't understand the videos, for God's sakes, just don't click on them. If you're going to go into a war with hardened, battled combatants and enemy, you better take a gun and a hat and a bulletproof vest and night goggles and night vision. You better be ready for a battle. Now, if you go in to speak to Mormons about their religious beliefs, you're going into a very heavily guarded and very battled, worn army. Now, I'm going back and forth now between the analogies, okay? The Mormons have been trained to kill you. I don't mean physically, I mean intellectually and religiously. They have had a training ground that started when they were 3 or 4 years old. Now, none of you out there, unless you've been a Mormon, have been trained to do anything when you were 3 or 4 years old. But the Mormon Church in primary begins training their combatants at 3 or 4 years old. So they've got 20 or 30 years on you before you ever say to a Mormon, well, Joseph Smith married 2 14-year-olds, and they go, no, he didn't. No, they're trained to knock you on your ass, and mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Now, here's what I've figured out, okay? And some of it's come from being a father, and some of it has come from these videos, the therapy I've gotten out of the videos, the therapy. I have people write to me and say, well, my cousin's thinking of joining the Mormon Church, and I'm trying to get my sister out, and I'm, seeing the Mormons. Please help me. Well, I don't. I'm sorry. I'm too old, I'm too fat, I'm too ugly, and I'm too selfish. This is my time. I got away from the cult, and I'm going to enjoy the last 5 or 10 years of my life. So people will say they don't talk. You can't get a word in it edgewise, and they don't see facts. And people are right. They don't see the facts because the left side of the brain basically has been not destroyed, but it's been put into suspended animation. And so everything is emotional. Now here's the key. To a Mormon, everything is emotional. There is no logic to their religion. There isn't. Why do 4 million people continue to, be in there? Well, some of them are young and the damage hasn't happened. But here's the key to Mormon thinking. Left side of the brain doesn't work at all. Right side of the brain works all the time. It is emotional. I have a burning feeling. I have the Holy Ghost speaking to me. I've seen it. It doesn't matter. There's this constant, endless loop of sentences that they have in the right side of the brain that they don't see. When you hold up a green light bulb, they go, no, I don't see it. And it's true. They don't see it. Because there's no analytical way for them to determine what color that is. They only know what they're told. They cannot generate from the inside of their own brains common sense. It's gone. And that's a cult. That's a cult. They do that on purpose, and that's a good way to get people's money, eventually. Now, here's what I found being a father, and here's what I'm going to suggest in my video. I've had, a lot of kids, and I've got one girl right now, she's 13. Oh my God, she's a doll. She's a doll, and she's got a mouth on her, just like all teenage kids do, and they're always pushing the envelope and the boundaries and whatever. And, if you get in a pulling match, go clean your room. No, I'm not going to do it. You're not my real dad. Well, you're not my real daughter, but go clean your own room. Well, you get in a pulling match with a teenager or a 2-year-old, you might as well just bend over and kiss your ass goodbye, because you're not going to win. You're not going to win. And when you think you win, you wake up in the morning and they've climbed out the window and they've gone and slept with their friends. So, what I've done, and I can't do this much when the kids get older. Once they're 12, 13 years old, you can't do it. It's not able to be used physically much at all. But if you tickle an angry child and you make them laugh, most of the time the angry child turns to a happy child, laughing, giggling, and then teasing back. Now, with my master's degree and my experience in working with children and mentally ill people and my own family, I'm saying to myself, what happened there? What happened? They were angry and pushing and fighting, and man, they're strong. Some of those kids can get so strong when that adrenaline gets pumping. And when you tickle them, endorphins are released from the brain, not adrenaline. And I'm saying to myself, whoa, is this a masterful invention by David? I'm saying, it might be. If you argue with a Mormon, you are going to go nowhere. They have a battle-hardened training that is in their brain. They have no logic. The left side cannot be activated, and the right side of the brain is defensive, 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 and it immediately produces adrenaline. They become angry. They're trained to be angry. They're trained to be confrontational. They're trained to fight you to the death. They're trained that way. Well, if you sit with them and you try to show them the scriptures and the silliness and the things that are going on, they don't see it. They don't see it, and they think you're the enemy. They think Satan has possessed you and you're an apostate. They're trained, they're trained, they're trained since 3 years old to defend silliness. But it's not silliness to them. Now, what does that make me say as a behaviorist and as a human service master's level counselor? Well, here's what I'm thinking. If you have now I'm going back to another analogy. Okay, if you have a soldier standing in front of you with his gun and he's rigid and his uniform and his patches and his frown and he's ready to battle you, it's probably not a good idea to slap him. I'm just saying it's probably not a good idea to slap him. Because he will stab you with that bayonet and he will shoot your head right off. Well, that's the way the Mormons are. You slap them and they become defensive, you've just lost every argument, and that's the truth, argument, because they're just going to argue you to the ground. Now, if you say to this soldier, the analogy, I have a Hershey bar here and it hasn't been opened, and I just think you're kind of a good-looking guy, and in the uniform you look kind of cool. Do you mind if I just put this down here on the ground, and I'm going to step back 10 or 15 feet so you know I'm not going to be aggressive toward you, and you can have, I know you've been standing here in the cold and everything, why don't you just take my candy bar? Now that becomes a change in the human mind. There has to be a decision. There has to be a decision. Now, there's two ways that I know of, and I'm not a brain expert, okay? But there's two ways in my mind that you make a decision. One is, no, it's rote. It's already programmed in. Rote. But in most human beings, there's ways of touching that left side of the brain, even if it's been programmed not to think or not to make decisions. So when you say to a Mormon or that soldier, here's something kind, here's something that I appreciate you, here's something that we're humans, and here's something that we may be able to discuss and to learn together. Suddenly, all of that militaristic helmet, gun, bulletproof vest becomes soft. It becomes soft. And it moves out of that right side of the brain over to the left, and the left now, which is not used much at all by any Mormons, is saying, I have to make a decision whether to pick that candy bar up or not. Well, this is my enemy. Well, maybe he's not your enemy. And that left side of the brain starts to click a little bit and starts to expand a little bit. And the decision might be, well, I am a little hungry and I love Hershey bars. Step back and I'll eat your candy bar. Now, while he's eating your candy bar, you can talk to him about certain things. And let me give you, in my opinion, this is all it is, just my opinion, how to deal with people who are Mormons. You ask them questions. You don't confront them. You ask them questions and let the left side of the brain start to be triggered a little bit. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to sit down for 1 hour and talk to someone that's been in the Mormon church for 50 years and say it's a cult, and they're going to go, oh yeah, you've asked me 8 questions and you're right, it is a cult. Come on. If you don't have that much common sense, go watch another video. But what I am saying is that by kindness and humor, you can move into the left side of the brain of a Mormon. Now, Mormons are not trained. They're not trained to handle humor. In the temple, they raise their right hand to the square, and they are told no light-mindedness, in other words, no fun thinking, and no loud laughter. Well, now you have something to work with. You know they're not trained in light-mindedness, and you know they're not trained in loud laughter. Go there. Go there. There's no gun, there's no helmet, there's no vest, and there's no tape. I've been in the Mormon church for 50 years. There's no tape there. The tape is on all the other things, and when you ask them, well, do you believe in polygamy? Bam, the tape goes. Do you know that Joseph Smith married 30? Bam, the tape is there. But when you go into a Mormon gently and you're kind, and you say, well, I understand that Joseph Smith was married to 30 different women. Is that true? Bam, now it goes over to the left side of the brain. And they have to say to themselves, inside their head, well, I don't know. That he may be wanting to attack me. And so the left side of the brain will throw it back to the right, and they'll say, well, why do you want to know? Why do you want to know? That has nothing to do with my salvation. Now see, they've moved it back to the right side of the brain, and emotion. You don't let them lead you with emotion. You say, well, I just kind of wanted to know because when you have 30 wives, that's a lot of bras, isn't it? Now that's funny. That's funny. Bam! It goes back over to the left side of the brain, and they go, well, that's not a real funny joke, but it's kind of comical, I guess. How do you buy 30 bras every couple of weeks? And now there's no answer to that question. And now the right side of the brain begins to lower its defenses. And then you can begin a conversation. Don't you ever answer any questions. You study what they believe, and then you ask them kindly to expand on it. You can say, and I keep using this example because it's the most overt that I found. You can say to a Mormon, when you're discussing their religion, I understand that Joseph Smith married 2 14-year-old girls. How do you feel about that? Your child is 14, you got another one that's 15. Well, see, it'll bounce right back to the right side of the brain looking for a tape. Looking for a tape that's been put there. and the tape will come out, and it will be off target. It'll be off subject, off topic. So it'll bounce back, and they'll say, well, you know, when the Lord promises it, see, they go to the closest tape that they can find. It's off the subject. Well, when you're a prophet, his ways are different than the Lord's ways sometimes, and he has special information from the Lord. So they use that tape. And then you just, rather than attacking, because this is deprogramming. This is deprogramming from a cult. You don't attack. You say, well, that's an interesting observation. But my question was, you have two 14-year-olds. How do you feel about them marrying a 38-year-old man? Now they're stuck. The defenses have dropped a little bit on the right side. The left side now goes looking for tapes, and there's no tapes. There's no tapes there about their 14-year-olds. There's tapes there about Joseph Smith's 14-year-olds, but not her 14-year-olds. And a mother then will say, well, and then you'll see a lot of this scattering of thought and bouncing around the room. Well, you know, and you get that. Now that is the left side of the brain trying to figure out what the hell is going on. It's never been presented to them that way. And so the left side of the brain will say, well, I think the girls looked a lot older. Well, that's possible. Your 14-year-old girls don't look like they're 23. Do you think that they looked a lot like your 14-year-olds? Bam! It goes back to the left side of the brain. You're looking for their decision. They're not going to listen to you. They're not going to agree with you. The only way you can unprogram a person from a cult is from the inside of their own mind. Anything from the outside is going to be shit. You're not going to do anything from the outside except let the right-hand side of the brain be defensive, programmed with tapes, programmed and programmed and programmed. Because a cult can't program the left side of the brain. It can only program the right side. Because if a cult says, we're all going to jump on, like a Heaven's Gate, we're going to jump on a flying saucer and it's going to take us into heaven. So everybody lay down here and get ready to commit suicide. And then if they're cheering and chanting the Pele, oh God, you know, they get that all worked up with adrenaline, and it's on the right side of the brain, they'll lay down and die. How do you put that on the left side of the brain? You walk over to this guy and say, you know, there's going to be a flying saucer, stop and pick us up. The left side of the brain can't be programmed. It's going to say, what? That's shit. Do you know someone that has a flying saucer? Now see, the left side is not defensive. It is logical. It is thinking. It is the hard part of our bodies of science, thought, and reasonableness. It is the real stability. It's the foundation of each human being. Well, the Mormon Church basically robs that foundation from all of its members, and they work only on the right side of the brain. I know the church is true. I know Joseph Smith's prophet. I know. They don't know any of that. Even if they say, I believe Joseph Smith, I believe, they're not trained to say that. The right side of the brain is trained in the Mormon Church to say, I know. The reason that that's there is because anyone with the left side of the brain that's still working, maybe that's not a Mormon, will say, well, how do you know? Well, I just know. See, the tape continues to play. It continues to play. Well, if you're going to break through that kind of program training and thinking, you're going to have to find a clever way to say to that Mormon person, you know that Joseph Smith was a prophet. Yes, I know. See, the defense is there. The helmet, the gun, the bayonet, and everything else is right there. Well, if you can come in there tickling them, or you can come in there with a candy bar, or you can come in there with a question that is not threatening, you can say, well, when you say that you know that he's a prophet, may I just ask you a question? Well, now see, there's tapes over here on the right that go, well, yeah, you can ask questions, but our tapes are ready. They're ready to click on whichever question you ask us. To say, Joseph Smith, your knowledge of Joseph Smith being a prophet, did you ever meet Joseph Smith? And of course, that tape over there is now trembling because it's not a real question that they're trained to answer. You say, well, and then the left side tries to pick up, and the left side goes, well, no, I never met him, but I can't admit that. It bounces it back to the right side. The right side starts this with the tape and says, well, no, I never met him, but the God has told me. Okay? And then again, you're going to try to get him off of that God told me, the burning feeling. You're going to have to get back kindly and gently over to the decisions. And you can simply, I'm just giving you the way I would do it. You're going to do it 1,000 different ways. I would just say, well, that you didn't meet Joseph, I guess you're saying. And then the left side is going to have to click on and say, well, no, I never met him. Because the right side has got the tape that says, it's not important to meet him. And then I would say something like, well, God told you that Joseph was a prophet. Yes! See, that tape flips right on. Say, well, does God speak English? Did he tell you in English? Bam! That's not over here. There's no tape for that. There's no tape for that answer. So the left side is clicked, and the left side is just fluttering. It's going, well, I don't know, did he speak in English, Arabic, did he give me sign language, and this, and so it flips it back to the right side, and the right side will go to the I don't care tape, or it'll go to that's not important to my salvation tape. Those tapes play when there's absolutely no answers coming from the left side. Don't give up. Don't give up. Because you've got them thinking a little bit. The left side has been triggered now a couple of times. And say, well, I don't know. He didn't talk to me in English. They weren't even words. Say, oh, that's pretty interesting. What did he talk to you like in telepathy? A thought? Yes. It was through the mind. I said, well, was it through the mind in English? Now you've gone back on a tape. See? You're doing what they're trained automatically to do. You stay on topic. You stay on the tape, it goes back to the left side of the brain, and they go, geez, I don't know if he verbally spoke English, and now it's telepathy. Did that come in English? And then finally it'll throw it back to the right side, and it'll say, yes, I felt the words. Say, oh, okay, you felt the words, because that's the tape that'll play over there. You say, okay. If I speak Arabic, would I feel the words in Arabic? Now, most of the time, this tape side of the brain, the program side, when you hit the left side too many times and it can't, respond properly, they become humiliated, they become embarrassed, and they become flustered. And then there's a master tape that said, well, no matter what, it doesn't matter, it doesn't phase my salvation. I know that Joseph Smith was a prophet, and I know the Mormon Church is true, and I know the Book of Mormon is true, and I know that Thomas Monson talks with Jesus and guides this church. There's the main tape that's programmed over there. So if you hit the left side too quickly or too hard, that tape is going to click in. That tape is going to click in. And they will get up and leave. They will remove themselves from the questions because they are defensive. They are trained that you're going to ask questions which humiliates them and which destroys, quote, their testimony. Don't do that. Don't do that. Yesterday I had a very interesting experience with my little wife, and she's a member of the Mormon Church and a returned missionary, and from the Philippines. And I've been in the Philippines, and I've seen an array of lifestyles in the Philippines, all the way from the squatters' camps to Manila, capital city. And I said to her, if I put a tape on my videotapes and said that the Filipinos had no home, no clothes, they crapped outside, they have no medical, they have no dental, and they have no telephones, no mail system, and typhoid and malaria everywhere, would that be a true statement? And she said, no, not all. And I said, well, then it's not a representative statement, is it? She goes, well, no, it's not. Parts of that are true, but there's other parts like Cebu and Manila and other islands that are spectacular resort areas. And some of our people live very, very well. So I got her left side of the brain triggered, and the defense side was relaxed. Then I put on the videotape of I'm a Mormon, and it's a young girl surfboarding, Joy Monahan, I think her name was, and saying to my wife, I said, you know, is this representative of all the people you know in the church? They're young, they're healthy, they're 18 or 20 years old, and they're happy, happy, happy. And the other tape I showed her was the little black young man that did I Am a Mormon. And I said, your experience in the Mormon church, are there a lot of black people in the Mormon church? Is that representative? Now she's stuck. Now she's stuck because the right side of the brain has not been triggered. There's no army, there's no helmet, there's no gun, and I've already set up. Would you want people to think of your people in the Philippines are all in a squatter's camp? And she says, no, that's not fair. I said, well, your experience in the Mormon church with the blacks. How many blacks have you seen in your wards that you've been in? And is that I Am a Mormon video representative? Is that fair representation of the Mormon church? And the left side of the brain hung in there. And it said, no, it's not representative. I said, is it deceptive? And she said, you know, they dance like that. When the left side is fighting with the right side, they just dance like that in their head. And she goes, no, it is deceptive. It's not true. And I wouldn't want you to represent my country of origin and birth as filthy and dirty like a squatter's camp. And I don't think it is proper for the Mormon church to represent him as typical in the Mormon church. So I've learned a little bit, because I love the girl to death, and we have a good marriage. I'm an atheist and she's a Mormon, and we just let each other live our own lives. And we don't force our ideas on either one. And my conclusion then is that you've got to be pretty damn cult educated. You don't need a college degree. You don't need, you know, millions of books or whatever, but you better know what it's like to deprogram a person from a cult. If you hit them on the right side of the brain, they're just going to start singing, "We thank thee, O God, for a prophet," and give you the devil sign that, you know, you are attacking their church, and they're ready. They're ready for that shit. You attack a Mormon, my boy, you're attacking a mother bear. You're attacking a mother bear. But if you tickle a mother bear and you have some honey on a stick and she starts licking that, and you say to her, you know, do you think it's right that little 14-year-old bears should be married to a big old fat 38-year-old bear? And she'll go, well, not really. I don't want my little bears married. And bam, the left side has been hit. The left side is making decisions. So I think it's humor. They are not prepared for humor. When the Book of Mormon play came on Broadway, the Mormon church just sat on its thumbs and spun round and round and round. The authorities didn't know what to do because it wasn't attacking the Mormon church, it wasn't defensive, it wasn't a mean army attacking, it was humor. And the old boys down in Salt Lake City, there's nothing funny, even, you know, nothing is funny to a Mormon. They are the most dull and unfunny people in the world because their temple ceremony requires that. So when that show has sold out now, I think it's sold out for the next 1 or 2 years in Broadway, and I've just read it's going to be hitting Los Angeles too. You can't even get a ticket to it. It is so funny. And it's humor. And the Mormon church can't and is not trained to and doesn't have any history of dealing with people laughing at them. None. They want to fight. They want to be confrontational. And they want to quote you scriptures. And they want this and they want, and they're trained. Boy, that right side of the brain is trained to be defensive. But the left side is laying there empty. If you can sneak across from the right to the left and ask them gentle questions and then say, do you want your 14-year-old marrying a 38-year-old man? You know, she's in 8th grade. If somebody was dating her and taking her out to movies, as a parent, would you feel good about that? And then you stand and you wait. And you don't argue with them. They go, oh yes, yes, I want my kids to be just like Joseph Smith. If my daughter was 14 and Joseph wanted her, I'd let her go. I say, okay, well, that's kind of interesting. Do you know that William C. Bennett was a doctor? Well, I don't know who William C. Bennett is. I say, well, he's one of the people that basically hung around Joseph all the time. And have you ever heard that he performed abortions for Joseph's mistresses? No, I'm sure. And bam, it goes right back to the right side. That tape flips up. No, you're against Joseph Smith. Oh, okay. Stay calm. Don't let their adrenaline run into their bloodstream. Once the adrenaline is in there, you have a wild mother bear on your hand. Tickle them emotionally, mentally, and with my kids, physically. If you tickle a baby that is, ugly and upset, most of the time they become a happy camper. So the Mormons are not defensive and ready for you if you come in with humor. The Book of Mormon comedy there on Broadway, they didn't know what to do. I've only seen one statement from the Mormon Church, and it was, people need to look at us on mormon.org, mormon.org. I'll give them all the advertisement they need, because they can't handle humor. And I think, now, I've told you a million times, I'm bipolar, and sometimes my thinking is very different than your thinking. My thinking is mental illness thinking. My medications keep me kind of in the middle so that at least, I'm not in jail or anything. But I lose my trend of thought all the time too because I'm so damn old. I hate that. When I was young, I used to always be able to keep my trend of thought. I got to go back to the humor. Just hit them with humor. They're not ready for the humor. They don't know how to handle humor, and there's no reason to be confrontational. If you get adrenaline into their blood system, like I've said before, you have a mother bear. If you can get endorphins, those are the things in the brain that are happiness. Now, when you have sex and when you have comedy and you watch funny things and you're having a great dinner and your friends are there, the pleasantness of life are endorphins up here that are released. A lot of chemical things going on up here when you're dealing with a Mormon. So if you tickle them, the endorphins are released and the adrenaline is not there. And then most parents will say, well, no, I don't want my 14-year-old marrying a 38-year-old man. And you say, well, I would agree with you. And then suddenly you can start to agree with them. Let it come out of their own brain. But you're not going to get anything to come out of the right side. It is the defensive side. It is the emotional side. If you're going to deprogram anybody, it's got to come out of the intellect side. And if that intellect side is damaged or dormant, or there's a wall between, which the cults do, put a wall between the right brain and the left, so when a thought goes over, it just bounces off the wall, comes back, and runs another tape on the right side. This is the frustration. Those of you that write to me and want me to be some kind of a cheerleader to bring people out of the Mormon Church, I'm not going to do that. I don't feel good about that, and I've learned you can't do that. You can't get a Mormon out of the Mormon Church. It is a cult. They will live and die in the cult. There's not a damn thing you can do. There is a chance that if you can lower the volume and you can lower the defense and you can bring in the endorphins. See, what the Mormons do to keep you in your place and the rest of the world is they bring you over cookies. They bring you over cookies and milk and a casserole, and they're kind. Well, that triggers the endorphins. So when they're around, you feel good. You feel good. Well, turn it around. You take atheist cookies over to them and say, hey, now I'm exaggerating. And you say, gee, you're really nice people. We love you as neighbors, and we just wanted to bring you some cookies over. They don't know what the hell to think or do. They're not trained. So where you go to defeat an enemy is to their weakness. You don't go to their strengths. If you can tickle a teenager reasonably, and he or she starts laughing, and you don't have to fight them, and they stop throwing stuff, that's a good thing. You're smarter than the average bear. When you're going to deprogram any cult member, this is not just a Mormon church, it's any cult, you have got to get by that defensive side of the brain that they're so well equipped to play tapes. Those tapes have been put there for hundreds and hundreds of years, and all they did is just make a copy and put one inside the head of the next Mormon coming up. You've got to go into the left side of the brain, and I'm going to tell you something, and this may offend some of you. And why is that a concern to me? It's not. It's not. The more intelligent, basic intelligence, now I don't mean education, and I'm talking about the human itself. The stronger the left side of that brain is, the more chance there's going to be that that person is going to be deprogrammed. If you trigger, and I'm not putting myself into this high intellectual group, I'm just saying from my experience, when a piece of that left side got triggered, and I said, gee, you know, he married two 14-year-olds, bam, the whole side of the brain turned on. And I started saying, Brigham Young and Porter Rockwell was killing people, and Wild Bill, what was his name? Wild Bill Hickman was the angel of death for Brigham, and they killed 120 people down in St. George, Washington County, that surrendered their guns and were standing under white flags. That whole side of the brain turned on, and suddenly I began to deprogram myself. So there's a lot of frustration. The human themselves, how strong that left side of the brain is, and how strong the right side of the brain is. If you've got a person that isn't, you know, the sharpest tool in the shed, the right side of the brain is going to predominate in their life. It's going to be fun, 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 feeling, feeling. The Lord talks to me. I'm a good person. I have a temple recommend. I'm going to the celestial. You know, that side of the brain they're going to bring to the table, and there's not going to be much deprogramming. They're desperate little people that have no self-esteem and no ego, and so, you know, talking to them, you're just going to be talking to the court jester. If you're talking to other people that have a real left side of the brain, and there's a way that you can trigger that with comedy, and their defenses are dropped. There is no gun for comedy. There's no protective vest for bullets from comedy. The Mormons don't know how to handle comedy. And I'm looking at my tapes. I've just hit 12,000 hits in 2 months. In 2 months, 12,000 people. Most of them are Mormons. Why do Mormons watch me? Because I'm not critical of them. I laugh. I try to bring some humor, and it's not fake. The things I say and do are the way I feel. I mean, I'm not trying to, you know, get on the comedy club here, but I think they drop their defenses. They, you know, the husband will say, well, honey, you know, come and watch this. This guy's kind of funny. He says stuff that upsets me a little bit, but he's kind of funny. Come here. But if the moment I came on a video and said, I hate the Mormons, they're a cult, and they're evil people, as soon as that tape title is on my group, no Mormon in the world is going to click on that. But when I put something on as a caption or a title, and then a description that is gentle and funny, you know, I had sex with your daughter, that's kind of funny. I mean, the title is funny. The subject, of course, is not funny. And they'll click on it. They'll say, oh my God, these bishops and these stake presidents and general authorities are screwing the kids? Scout leaders? Comedy. Gentleness and comedy going to the left side of the brain. Don't fight them. You're going to lose. Cults, you cannot beat a cult. They would rather drink Kool-Aid with poison in it and with their children and die than to admit anything. And you're not trying to make them look stupid. You're not trying to make them admit they were wrong. I don't think you can be wrong being in a cult. Usually you're born in it. Usually you don't make a conscious decision to go into a cult, especially religious cults. So I don't think it's a war between they said, he said, she said. You do that, you're just going to lose. You're going to waste your time, you're going to have hurt feelings, and you're going to have people that don't talk to you, you're going to lose friends and family, whatever. If you tickle them and say, well, you know, when the Lord speaks to you, is it in English, or is it in Arabic, or is it kind of like in Reformed Egyptian? They're not ready for that. The right side of the brain has no tape for that. And when the right side is stumped, it will automatically click to the left, because that's the logical part of our existence. And the logical part will go, well, I don't know, maybe he speaks English, Arabic, he's God, he speaks everything. And, and then it bounces back to the right to try to find a tape to back that up. Well, that's my theory, and that's my belief. I can live with an LDS person because we laugh our ass off. We're always laughing. It's not that it's always funny. Come on. I've told you I'm not going to lie to you. There's times that things can get quiet. She goes out to the computer and I go back to my computer. We don't fight about it. There's no fight about it. Last night, my little girl went to a party and she got a white elephant gift, which was nice. She comes home with a manger scene. Well, here I am, atheist. Here my wife is, LDS, and my 8-year-old says, Dad, I got a really nice present, and I hope it doesn't make you mad. Well, that made me feel terrible. That just kind of broke my heart. And I said, she'll be 9 next month. I said, honey, Dad doesn't believe in religion, but you're certainly welcome to have a manger here. You can have the Jewish candles here. You can have a rug and pray to the east and bow. Whatever religion you want to be when you're 18, you can choose any religion that you want. But I don't want you brainwashed into any religion. But you can have Christmas and Santa Claus and Jesus, and we'll tell you the story about Jesus in the Bible, and you're not going to be brainwashed into a religion. You will make that decision when you are fully developed, grown, and the left and the right side of your brain are balanced. And so it can be done, folks. It can be done. And it can be done with humor. I had my wife come in and watch what I thought was my classic video. And of course, self-evaluation, you got to be really careful of that. Usually you're wrong, self-evaluation. But my classic video I have now posted on my YouTube channel. And it's Don't Let This Happen to You, or Look What the Mormon Church Did to Me. I love that video. I think that God was speaking. Well, when I looked in my hat with the seer stone, I could see that video, and I just reenacted it. So you can be kind. If you're not a Mormon, you need to be kinder than a Mormon. You need to volunteer more than a Mormon. You need to be nicer, more educated, more gentle. Take more cookies over to them, because they're always trained to bring the cookies to you. When you send the cookies over to them, there's no tape for that. And if you invite them over to your house and you're having a little party with some friends and they see people laughing and enjoying themselves, they calm down. I remember when my little one, I was just talking about, the first time I bought a bottle of wine, which has been, I don't know, a year and a half ago, and it lasted a year, and she said, Dad, you're not supposed to be drinking that. She has a little bit of relics left over from being LDS. And I said, why? She says, well, you'll be an alcoholic. And I said, well, now see, she's already got that taped in there, and she was 6 years old. It was already there. If you drink alcohol, you'll be an alcoholic. Well, and I went right to what I'm telling you to do. I went right to the left side of her brain. And I said, well, honey, did you see Daddy drink this, and did I start acting silly? Well, no. Did I start hitting you or being mean to you or not going to work? Well, no. I said, well, do you think I'm an alcoholic? Well, no. Now she doesn't think anything of it. If I get a glass of wine or dinner or something, I order a drink now and then, once every 3 months. So you've got to go to that left side of the brain, folks. They're trained already by 6 or 7 years old, 5, 6 or 7 years old, that if you smoke or you drink, they are trained to turn you in. They're going to rat on you. And all you got to do is tickle them and say, do alcoholics tickle good? And then she starts laughing. And the way to deprogram a Mormon is humor. That's what I'm trying to say. If you want to get along with Mormons and you want to talk with them and you want to be friends with them, or if you are a Mormon, don't develop any humor, because if you do, the defenses will drop down on that right side, the tapes will quit playing a little bit, and you're going to have to think. You're going to have to think. And when you think, it's very uncomfortable because it doesn't match the tapes. And now you have to decide. And that's where I'm saying that intellect and morality and integrity have a lot to play if a Mormon resigns or leaves the Mormon church. Because on the left side of the brain, you're going to be hated, you're going to lose your family, your friends, maybe your wife, maybe your job, and you're going to be called names and apostate, and you're going to have a hard time renting or buying anything if you live in a state like Utah. How many people are going to take that intellect and move away from the cult? Not very many. Not very many. Me, a maverick, and me, mentally ill, yeah. I can back away because I didn't have any friends anywhere, and I don't really give a rat's ass if I ever have a friend. That's just bipolar. So that hold on me in the Mormon church wasn't there. It's not there, and my job is not related to it. I'm retired. They can't touch my job, and they can't do anything to harass me. Well, I'm exaggerating. There's a lot of things they can do to harass you. But point is, be friendly. Be kind. Use humor, because Mormons are not programmed with humor. It is a new uniform. It is a new battle. It is a new war, and they have no training. Ask questions. Don't make harsh statements. If you get in a battle with a Mormon, you're going to lose. You're going to lose. If you get into a humor contest with a Mormon, you may win. Thanks.